My name is Sonata, and you're watching Victory Road, a history of how Pokemon games craft their central narrative. This is the inaugural episode on, well, where else to start than with Generation 1. I decided to play a ROM hack of Pokemon FireRed for this retelling, that being Pokemon though that's only mostly for footage gathering purposes. During the editing of this video, I went around and watched through a long play of the unmodified game to make sure my timeline was mostly correct. That all being said, I should explain what this video is about to those of you who might not know. This video series takes after my last duology of videos, talking about the way that Pokemon games are designed from a numbers perspective. What the most common gym leader was, Elite Four, all of that kind of thing. The second video followed a bunch of averages, how many times you fought the rival, the evil team, whatever they may be, or how many there were, and a whole bunch of other things. I then decided to take all of the data that I had and made my own theoretical Pokemon game timeline based on how the other games played out, what, when, and where certain events on the timeline were placed. In doing so, I came to understand Pokemon a lot more than I previously had because I had always liked the single-player campaigns of Pokemon. How they played out and why has constantly been something I wanted to discuss, and this is my excuse to doing so. In this pursuit, I decided to make timelines of all the games after playing through all of them myself, trying to get into the nitty-gritty of what I enjoyed about these games and why. I find how people relate to these games very intriguing, down to people's weird takes on how things should be structured, whether or not you should be able to do things out of order to get your ideal team in a certain way, or if the gym leaders should scale to you. I have my own opinions on these, so think of Victory Road doubling as micro-reviews of the games. I definitely could have, arguably should have, already done most of this before I made my 2-hour-long diatribe on Pokemon and numbers within it, but I felt like I could squeeze more personal enjoyment by doing things in reverse, making the big video aggregating timelines, and then smaller videos about each individual one after the fact. It also gives me something to do in my day-to-day life when I'm not screaming over my dress-up darling. It's so good! With that out of the way, there are certain things that are in every Pokemon game without fail. The first event is always, and will always be, a rival fight. The first event doesn't mean first ever combat scenario, that would be ridiculous, but it does mean it's the first event that's part of a set. The set being gym battles, rivals, villain organizations, that kind of thing. I have to be this specific since in a couple of games you can fight wild Pokemon before fighting your rival, but I wouldn't count that. FireRed is no different. It's pretty well known that you fight Peppo here. Yeah, because this isn't a real game, I decided to name Red and Blue Mr. Pibb and Peppo. This is a joke for John Green and John Green only.
You know what it tastes like? It tastes kind of like if Dr. Pepper were John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. This would be, I can also blow into a saxophone.
There's not much I can say for this game as it relates to other games because, comparatively, it's meant to set the stage. Look here, comparing FireRed to Scarlet. The first rival fight is there, of course, but Scarlet has you taking on 2 more rival fights and one of the grunts of the villain organization before you have the opportunity to take on the lowest level gym. FireRed has one hidden fight if you really want it, but that can be easily ignored and very often is. You can just go straight to the gym with this one, which is what I'm assuming most people did. Pokemon FireRed, and really both games which you'd probably think of when it comes to Generation 1, Let's Go doesn't count, have a definitive structure based on gym progression. The proposed order is Brock, Misty, Lieutenant Surge, Erica, Koga, Sabrina, Blaine, and finally, Giovanni. The thing is though, you can do a lot of these guys out of order. Surge, Erica, Koga, Sabrina, and Blaine can be fought in any order you so desire because the only thing stopping you from going to fight Erica is cut. So once you have that, you can just leave Vermilion City entirely and head back to Cerulean and go east, letting you go to the rest of the region. I didn't do that for my playthrough, but I do think it's funny that through programming oversights, that can just happen. It's not as if the game checks which badge you have before a gym opens up in these cases, it's kind of just assuming that you're going to do things as you see them and as they make the most sense to do. It's very Metroidvania-esque if you think about it. The player heads right to get out of Cerulean City, but oh no, there's a clear little tree there that blocks the path forward. Better head south instead and potentially find the next gym leader. Aha, there's another tree there. So that must mean that this has to be the right destination, but you don't have the right tools. You look at your map, and there's no real other place for you to progress, but you remember getting the SSN ticket from that weird guy named Bill back at Cerulean City, so you talk around and find out that the SSN is here, and you board and blah blah blah, you get the HM for cut, head off, and you're free again to do whatever you wish. You're not told that you need to go into Vermilion City Gym, it's just kind of encouraged that you do so because it's right there. The only caveat with the 5 gyms leaders I mentioned is that Koga is required to be fought before Blaine, since you need access to Surf in order to even get to Blaine in the first place over on Cinnabar Island. One thing I noted back in my old video on Pokemon Black and White, reinforced by my video on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I have a lot of videos, was that Pokemon games traditionally had 3 separate storylines within the core narrative. Those being the gyms, the evil team, and the legendary. The thing is, this is only core to Pokemon games from Generation 3 onwards, and usually the villains and the legendary are combined together as one big story. In FireRed, they're all tied together in this wonderful and quaint way. Everyone at this point knows that the 8th gym leader is also the leader of Team Rocket, and it's through finishing both storylines that you can get to the rest of the game. I feel like it's important to update these classifications. So the gyms, the evil team, and legendary are still the main 3 that are there, but I'm going to start calling it the League story, the opposition, and the legendary. I'm also going to add in the rival story because I think they're just as important to how any Pokemon game plays out, even if they're just your friends. That being said, my point doesn't change that all of these stories tie together in some way. With the opposition, they end their time near the end of the League story, which is just fine, and I think that works with the overall thing they're trying to do here. The rival story is locked with the players at every given moment, with Peppo being there almost everywhere you go. He's the gate to Nugget Bridge, he's right in front of the guy who gives you Cut in Vermilion City on the SSN, he's in Lavender Town in Silphco, and of course, he's the champion. Sorry if you didn't know that, but you did because you're not 6 years old. At least you better not be. So the rival story ends about here. But there's this legendary story thing that happens, so what about that? Well, it's more of a thing in other games, and it's more of a writing trick than the gameplay one like the other narratives, but it's still slightly present in Generation 1. It starts about here when you get to Cinnabar Island and you can read about Mewtwo's origin and such. The legendary thing concludes when you go into Cerulean Cave and oh, there's Mewtwo right there for the fighting. Future Sonata here. I didn't want to deal with the Sevi Islands after fighting Peppo, so I didn't do it. Mewtwo being here doesn't have any greater meaning to anything, and sometimes I wish more legendaries were like this. Not necessarily not integrated with the main plot, I do like that a lot, just more legends that are out in bumfuck nowhere but have a lot of lore around them. It's why the legendary birds, all 3 of which I caught, also kind of were really cool this go around. Granted, I was only able to get Moltres because I went to Sevi Islands right after fighting Blaine as my 6th gym leader. Maybe I just missed something in Scarlet and Violet, but I have no recollection of any of the 4 alternate things aside from seeing those random spikes in the ground. No write-ups or anything, but it's entirely possible I just wasn't paying attention because I was focused on the everything else but actual school part of the game. Couldn't get me to sit through those classes. I was streaming, damn it. So what can we learn from Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen? Well, I for one think that it's a lesson in letting the player go where they think they want to go. They get the idea in their head to go around and fight the gym leaders because that's what they're tacitly encouraged to do, and yet it's only once that you're actually told. Go fight Brock, and you figure you might as well fight every single one. I'd really love to get the opinion from someone who genuinely remembers their first Pokemon game, how they understood where to go and whatnot. I've tried to posit that it's the map design and logical reasoning that told you wherever you needed to go. Little in the way of roadblocks that either make sense or they don't. As it goes with the timeline, here's what I've got. There's not much to learn here as it relates to other games in the series, but I think it's really cool that this game kind of sets you up to follow the non-legend stories one after another. First rival, second optional rival, first gym, and then boom, it's Team Rocket. I love how Rocket is set up in this game. It's not a lot of cutscenes telling you how bad they are. You just kind of feel this resentment coming on from a bunch of people that they really fucking suck. You meet them periodically, and it's kind of funny knowing what you know now. A lot of people make fun of how easily they fell at the hands of a 10-year-old with monsters. Meanwhile, your organization is a bunch of adults with literal guns if you watch the anime, but consider that this entire world is run not on weapons with bullets, but is entirely about people with 6 creatures each telling them to kick ass and take names. I feel as though Giovanni went,
yeah, this kid handed things to me twice, and even if it's my job to lose, I'm still going to honor this because he could really do it.
The kid bested you in battle when you had no reason to let him win. He probably could take over Team Rocket himself if he wasn't literally a child. Be so for real right now, internet commenters from nearly 30 years ago.
Give me all your money!
I guess the best word you could use to describe this game is quaint, if that makes a lick of sense. I had a lot of fun revisiting this game, if that means anything. I never got to properly experience it as a kid. I've mentioned that I became a Pokemon fan through tertiary media, such as the anime, but that's for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to get into because they're sad. The only thing that might bog this game down is just how challenging it can be. I'm not saying it was hard, but it was a step up from, say, Scarlet and Violet. Ultimately, I think that the EXP share becoming an always-on, team-wide thing with Capture EXP to be a good thing. Capture experience is honestly the only kicker I think an older game needs, because Switch training is fun in a way that I can't describe, but only makes sense to my lizard brain. Especially with how much capturing I was doing in order to get into Cerulean Cave after the champion fight, I felt like I desired experience points on Capture more than anything else. One thing I mentioned is just how much the game trusts you to follow the path it sets up. The story it tells is so simple, and I think that it's because of that it can let you wander around and figure out what to do and put the puzzle pieces together. Like, you defeat Giovanni at Silphco, and he says he'll be back at some point, and you take on all the other gym leaders and are thinking about the 8th one. The only gym that's possibly left is the Viridian City Gym, and the game doesn't signpost that in the slightest. You have to make an educated guess, talk to some townspeople, and oh lord, there he is. With all of that said, if you liked what you guys saw here today, go down and hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. I want to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I hope I can finish this video series by the beginning of next year too. But with all the other videos I have planned, it might take a while. Might need to outsource the editing for that. If you really like what I'm doing and want to support the channel, memberships are open, and I'd really appreciate the support. You'll even get your name read out at the end of the videos like these ones, because every YouTuber does that, and I'm not about to break the tradition. If you want to see some extras for this video, it's also out now, but it's just members only. My name is Sonata. Thank you for watching. And let's continue down Victory Road. So I decided pretty early on to catch as much as I reasonably could, as long as it wasn't in my way, mostly for the purposes of getting to the Mewtwo at the end of the game, because I heard that the main gate for that was becoming the champion and also catching 60 Pokemon. So that's not right, apparently. But I decided to catch as much as I could anyway, so scrolling is every Pokemon I caught. I nickname all of my Pokemon if I can, and some of them even have names sourced from friends, namely Pickle, the Pikachu from my friend Aurora. I'm going to be having them all scroll on screen right now, every single Pokemon I caught during the main story.